What's up, guys? Welcome back to Big Yogi'Z Garage. Today I got Marcus Hartford. What's up, Marcus?
How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Feeling good.
You're a chef, right?
Yeah, chef in Toledo. Yep.
Okay, and then where you just moved to a new restaurant?
Yeah. I just started a new gig. I'm at Big Yogi'Z in Perrysburg at Levis Commons. It's a classic Italian, little high-end restaurant.
Okay.
It's been around for a while, so I just took over as executive chef.
Yeah, that's
about
dope.
2 to 3 months ago. Yeah.
And you had to go you went out of town.
Yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about that.
So I got the job, and then they're based out of Chicago, so it's all under one owner, so it gives you that mom and pop feel. But he opened up a few of them in the Midwest, so there's like 2 in Indiana, I think 4 in Chicago, and then the only one in Ohio is Perrysburg, Toledo area. Okay. And so they're based out of Chicago, like I said, so they wanted me to, since I was taking over a whole store and being the executive chef, and it's my first time working for the company, they wanted me to see how it was done, where it kind of started at and grew in the roots. So they kind of sent me to Chicago, all paid, business trip, and I had a per diem, and that was cool because that was my first time as working as a chef out of state. Yeah. I've worked in Columbus because I went to culinary school in Columbus, and I lived down there for about 3 years, but Chicago is definitely a different beast and a lot of different people, and it was awesome. I mean, it was a great experience. It was like super surreal to be, working there, for like a month. It was a month. So I was living in a hotel. Like they put me up in a nice hotel, like a suite for a month. But yeah, I was working a lot, and it's like advanced training. Like every 2 days you learn a new station, you learn a new part of the restaurant as management. Because
you already know you're a chef already, but it was more of a specialty just for their menu.
Exactly, their menu, the way they do things, what their goals and their policies are, and how they plate and how their recipes are. Because it is a from scratch kitchen, so I mean, that's really all I work. I am a real, I am a real guy that believes in like chef-driven kitchens because I am a certified chef. Like I went to culinary school. I've been doing this since I was 14, 15, so about 13 years now, a little over 13 years of actually professionally cooking. Yeah. I became an executive chef before I was 21.
For real?
Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah.
How did you get into the cooking?
Yeah, the cooking wise was mostly my family. Yeah. Because my family's Polish, so my grandpa and grandma, they cooked a lot at home, and they just really had their own style of cooking, and they kind of incorporated Polish food into it. But my grandpa's a fisherman, and he would clean his own fish in the backyard back in the day, and he'd grill and he'd fry fish, and he was known for that. Like he'd give people fish all the time because he caught so much and he cooked so much. And then he'd also cook at the Polish festival back in the day. We'd cook.
Is it your grandpa, the one that interviewed?
Yeah, that one. Yep. Yeah. So Greg,
Greg
Janatowski. Yep. So he showed me really a lot of like grilling and frying and working with seafood and Polish food. And then my grandma, she always cooked all of our dinners, for the family. So she was always doing stuff inside the house more. He was doing stuff outside, if that makes sense. And then after that, my mom was always friends with bar managers, owners, chefs, and restaurant people that were in Toledo area. And my family, is all about, working to get what you need to get, like no handouts. So at a young age, they kind of put in my mind, I was playing sports. I was playing almost all sports in high school, but it came to that point where you started growing up and you're like, I can try to continue and achieve the sports, which is really hard. That's a hard goal for anyone, even if you're super good, to be that 1 out of 1,000 people that even gets to a D1 college. Or I can really try to invest in my career at a young age, find out what I want to do, start planning what I want to do for college and make money off of it. So I got 2 jobs while I was in high school in different kitchens in Toledo. Okay. Yep.
And that's kind of how it all started?
Yeah.
It gave you that bug?
Yeah, it did, but at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous and scared. I was intimidated. I was always the youngest one in kitchens. You have to just hop into it, especially for me. Like, I didn't go from like fast food. Some people, that's all great. You know, I pride people in who do that. They kind of start at like a fast food place or like a quick service place, and then they'll go into a real big restaurant. I just hopped into big restaurants, and I was like, hey, how do you do it? Like,
one of my first jobs was at Mommy Bay Brewing Company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was a dishwasher, and then I was a dishwasher, and then I was like, and then I moved to the salad prep. Yeah, and then I was like a runner. I ran food. And stuff like that.
Nice.
I even made like pizzas. They had like that stone thing.
Yep. So I'm pretty familiar with the guys that are there now. I did some events there with them. And I had some friends that used to work there that then worked for me at different restaurants. But that's cool,
the dudes that I worked for back then was like old school. Danny Miller. Okay. He's like an old school chef. He used to be a chef at Holiday Inn French Quarter.
Yeah, I know of him from there. Well, I don't know him personally, but I know his name.
And then he went to and then there was a guy named C. He was like a Filipino. Okay. And he was after Danny Miller left Mommy Bay, C took over. He's a Filipino. He was like real. They were like, it was cool though. It was cool to see that
atmosphere.
Yeah, because everything was homemade, just like you said. Like even like the ranch, ranch. They made everything.
Mayo.
It was no joke, man. I never knew like the back end of a kitchen until I got into that.
So you know a little bit, you know a little something. You've seen it, you know how it gets down.
Yeah, and I've actually worked in pizzerias and stuff like that.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So so what was the first? So Mommy Bay was my first. What was your first restaurant?
My first restaurant technically was Bar 145.
Oh, okay.
Which we'll talk about. Even I'm sure we'll get into, but I've had a long career there.
Okay.
Eventually, but there and then. I was at Giorgio's for a little while in high school, International, downtown Toledo.
Oh, okay,
So I was there at nights after school, and then on weekends I was at Bar 145. So
that's cool.
That's when I was saving up for a car. You know, I just hit 15, so I was like, I know I got to get my license soon. And because 14, I was like just figuring it out, you know, about cooking, and then finally I turned 15. I'm like, I need to start really getting some money doing this as a teenager, and then. I want a car, and you know, by that time, that's what I was my main goal was.
Yeah. You were trying to figure out like how if I'm in the food industry, what's the most money I can make?
Yeah. Can I make money from it?
Yeah.
Do I enjoy it? You know, who was around me that is good to train me? Like, who can I learn from? You know?
What was your first steps? Like for like let's say like, you know, there's a kid watching right now. Like, what is your first step? Like, you're 14?
Yeah. I always tell people everyone's different, you know. But I'll talk about the steps. So the first step for me was like just realizing, hey, this is what I'm really interested, you know, because I feel like that's just how I live life, man. I don't want to dive into something if I'm really not that interested and invest time into it. And even at a young age, it's like, you know, do I want to invest all this time into it? You know, because I could go on and work. Some of my friends were working at car washes. Some were working in the mall, you know, and it's like, I could have done any of that, you know, but I was like, man, I think I really want to do this. So getting that interest, feeling that out. And sometimes it's right place, right time, or knowing the right people, like, because I did know some through family, friends, some business owners and restaurant owners, and hey, give me a shot. I want to eventually, because I was at Whitmer High School. They have a CTC career tech program, and I was doing the culinary art side of it. So I was doing that in school too.
Okay,
you know?
so you already had like
they had like a little student ran restaurant for the faculty at Whitmer. So you know, I did that, and then I was like, well, eventually, you know, for college, what are you gonna do for college? You know what I mean? If you're not gonna play sports or go somewhere, you know, I was like, well, I want to go to a culinary school. That'd be awesome. You know, go to college and do what you love and cook. But yeah, so I started looking at colleges. So my next step would be, once you're in high school, figure it out what you're interested in, do it, try to get in somewhere locally, you know, and get under someone that is trustworthy, really.
Okay. Like then, starting a restaurant.
Or who's a good chef that's known. Like, you know, there's a lot of places, you know, that was for me, you know, I know I'm still young, but still that was over 14 years ago. So, I mean, things were way different, you know, you know, way before COVID, way before all these things. So for me, it was like, just seeing who was a good, dope chef back then, and who did I want to like do food like, you know what I mean? And I watched a lot of cooking shows growing up also with my grandpa. When we'd go over there, you know, he was super into the cooking shows like Iron Chef or Emeril Lagasse, like he liked those dudes. So we would watch that, and I'm like, man, these guys are like celebrities, but they're just cooking food, you know? Yeah. So figuring it out and then applying how you want to go about it, you know? A lot of people, some people I've talked to don't believe in the culinary school route because it's, you know, you're paying money on the back end, you're going to owe grant, you know, your loans, school loans, or however you know, pay for school. But for me, I think it was the best choice, man. I went to, because I did both. I started at 14 in jobs, graduated high school, went to culinary school, moved down to Columbus, packed up everything. I didn't know no one down there. I lived in dorms for the first year. It was a 2-year degree college. It was Columbus Culinary Institute at Bradford College in Columbus. So, you know, I lived in dorms for the first year, and then I really got a wake-up call because the college itself was pretty well known in the Midwest for culinary. And they took it serious there, man. Like, I would say more than half my starting original class that I started with for those 2-year program, by the time I graduated 2 years later, they were either kicked out or they dropped out because they couldn't handle it. You know, it was really demanding, just like a restaurant industry.
Yeah, so so it's not easy. So basically, you jumped in the fire. So from high school, you started school. Then as soon as you could, you got into the work. And did you start cooking right away, or did you have to start like being a dishwasher?
Sure. Yeah. So like I said, you know, when I was in high school, I did start being a dishwasher, but I always kept pushing, hey, I'll learn how to cut these vegetables. I'll learn how to make these desserts, or you know, the prep side.
I did that too.
Yeah, so
I make desserts.
Yeah, the prep side. So I was like, you know, just to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, for sure.
But I did start as a dishwasher. Both jobs I started as, and then so then after that, once you kind of get a couple notches under your belt and say, and you gotta, you know, in interviews, sweet talk a little bit, and it's all about your confidence, you know, because if you go into an interview like, hey, I've only done dishes, and that's all you say, they're not going to want to move you up to cook, you know, they're going to be like, well, run some dishes, like, but if you come in there like, hey, I've ran dishes for a couple, like, you know, a year or two, I'm really interested in going far in this career, I want to learn, throw me on anything, and I'll learn.
And you can tell them like, you know, I've been cooking at home, I've been cooking at school,
I've been studying it, you know,
watching YouTube videos.
Exactly. Anything, and chefs really appreciate that, man, like keeping your mind stimulated with the focus and the goal of like being innovative and being educated, just like any other subject. So, you know, I was in culinary school, and people are like, a lot of those kids, some of them weren't, but some of them were like me, but some just didn't work. You know, they just went to school, and that was cool, good for them, you know, but me, you know, I didn't have no one down there. My family was still up in Toledo, and I had a car, and I just wanted to pay for my own things. So, you know, I'm very driven, so I immediately got jobs down there, and I was working, I was doing both. So I was working like full time while I was full time in school, you know, 5 days a week classes, like I think it was 8 a.m. to 3:10 or 3:30 p.m. And then right after that, 4 p.m. to close, usually at a restaurant. Like I'd get off, change chef coats. My school chef coat was on. And a lot of people don't know culinary school, I mean, it's not just cooking the whole time. You do have labs for like 3 hours, right? That you're in a kitchen. But I mean, to get associate's degree, you got to do certain classes by Ohio, you know, or the federal law. So, you know, we had to take math courses, English courses, physics, psych, health courses, all those, you know, real lecture halls.
To get the degree or
whatever. You had to sit in lecture halls, you had a teacher, you had to take notes, you know.
I didn't know that.
I took a lot of different courses.
Most people just think that you're just cutting up stuff and cooking.
They think of it as like the, you know, and so, like for Harry Potter, they go to a wizard school. It's like, but it's for chefs. It's kind of, I mean, there's a lot of homework. We had a lot of homework. I spent a lot of hours, you know, stressing out about grades, and because they're the type of school, college that if you fail one course, it doesn't matter what course it is, you're done. You can't retake it. Like you're done or you're out.
Yeah, because being a chef is very important. Like you're not only in charge of just the food, right? You're also in charge of other like you know, the other people?
Yeah.
Like, do you have to do like scheduling and like,
like
stuff
finance
like that?
is huge. Knowing your numbers, that was the biggest thing for me to learn over time. You know, I think the cooking thing came very natural to me.
Okay.
I feel like it's in my blood, just being Polish and then having my other side of my family, we're all mixed, you know, to Hispanic to, you know, any type of thing in my family. We got it all. So everyone's cooking and we all cook different food and it's great. So I think it's more in my blood, but the financial side with learning how to run a business as a chef leader, like labor costs, knowing your labor percentage and knowing how to do schedules correctly where you're, you know, you're not taking away from the business, you know, and it's the right time for business. Your food cost percentage of, you know, every single thing that comes in on a truck that gets delivered and you put on a shelf, you prep, you cook, it's all a money sign, it's all a dollar sign. And you got to figure out that dollar worth. So that, you know, inventory is huge, knowing what you have on hand and just taking down numbers and transferring that into your food cost. And then management, knowing how to be an HR person, because most restaurants don't have an HR person. So you're the chef, you're the kitchen's HR.
You're managing all the
they come to you for all their problems and all their, you know, what's going on in their head and what they want to do and achieve. So, you know, you're not managing just yourself. You're managing, like, you know, some restaurants I've managed right now at my restaurant, at Big Yogi'Z, you know, I manage probably, I mean, I'm going to throw a rough number out there, but like in the back of the house, so the back of the house is considered the kitchen, you know, in the dish area, the prep area. I managed probably at least 30 other people, if not more. I mean, you know, so I've managed more than that at other restaurants, like 30 to 40 people. And then you hit numbers like 50, you know, some smaller restaurants, it's only like 13, you know, 12.
So maybe, that's a lot of people back there.
I mean, you got a lot going on and you got to keep your head straight on knowing what every moment, what's going on. So that's your job as the chef, you know, they look up to you for that. So
it's a lot going on inside of a kitchen.
Oh yeah, it's loud, it's fast. And I still think about it all the time, man. Like, I kind of laugh because, like, if people ever wanted to just see what it was for like a day, if they came in and like any restaurant I've worked at, because I've worked at some really good places, man, in Columbus and Toledo, you know, with good crews, but it's just madness. You know, everyone's yelling, everyone's, you know, it's hot, it's fast. People are running past each other and grabbing things and loud noises because of the dish area, doing dishes, the machines, the ovens, you know, the stove tops, the fryers.
Everything's hot. Everything you touch is hot.
Everything you touch is hot. You gotta have a towel to hold things, and everyone's just very fast, and it's very like hectic. You know, I had a chef that used to teach me and tell me, and I kind of took this slogan. It's controlled chaos in a kitchen. That's how usually you know a good kitchen if it's controlled chaos. You know.
And that's kind of like when you're back there and you're the chef, and all these things are happening around you. But you can actually concentrate on what's going on.
Yeah, you got to learn how to shut certain sides down at one moment and focus in, dial in, you know?
Oh, because the waitresses are like, hey, is the meal ready? But you have to like say, hold up, shut up. Let me see if this meal's ready.
Like, I'll talk to you in a second. I'm focusing on this right now.
But you got to gotta be like, hold on, put your blinders on.
Yeah, right, put the blinders on, yep. And there's protocols and procedures of, at least the restaurants I've worked at and good restaurants, that how to communicate with the chef and how to communicate from front of the house, which is the service staff, the people that are, you know, putting on the show and serving you and making you have a great time out there, to the people that are working in the kitchen to get the food out. You know, between those two, sometimes there can be, you know, lost in translation, communication errors. So there's procedures put into place of how to and when to is the right times to communicate to each other. Because everyone can't just talk at once, because then it's willy-nilly and nothing will get done.
So you guys have like a structured way to do everything.
Certain things to say, you know, sometimes less is more. You know, like just get to the finer points. Like, hey, chef, I need this right away, exactly like this. Don't tell me why. You know, I mean, unless it's like an allergy. We need to know allergies. You know, that's very important. But don't tell me, you know, that, you know,
the steak fell down
the steps, you know, down the steps, and someone slipped on a banana peel, and, you know, someone's grandma came in an hour late, and she wants her soup hot. You know, just tell me what you need, and I'll do my job and with my kitchen to get it to you. Then later we can talk about what happened. You can tell me a
story about the banana peel. And all that. Okay,
exactly.
I understand that. That's pretty sweet. All right, so you just moved. You ended up moving from one restaurant to another because okay, this is what happened. I interviewed your grandpa.
Yeah.
After I interviewed your grandpa, I ended up becoming friends with your mom and you on Facebook. Yeah. Because every time I interview someone, I get a couple more family members
following, you know what I mean?
Subscribe to the channel, but then I noticed that you were a chef. Yeah. I noticed you were a Steelers fan.
Yep.
And then I noticed that you had, you know, moved from one restaurant to another, and you were like going on that trip that we just talked about.
Yeah.
So
it happened kind of really fast.
Yeah, like tell me a little bit about that. Like
the transition.
The transition from one restaurant to another.
So the restaurant, you know, I was at before, I was there for about a year and a half, and it was also in Perrysburg. And you know, it was high end, and I was making all the menus, and I did like 4 new menus, and I did a lot of cool things there. I won some awards there.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, like you know, best plates and best presentation, and which was cool. And then we did like some we did a lot of private events like bourbon dinners, beer dinners, wine dinners, you know, stuff like that, which is like a ticketed event to shut down half the restaurant, and the chef courses it out with like a distributor, like a local brewery or a local distillery or whatever, like, and we pair food with that, you know, drink for like 4 or 5 courses or different drinks. So that was fun and that was cool. I liked it a lot, and then, you know, a lot of changes started happening within that business and that restaurant. And I thought, you know, my first 6 months at that place, the original place I was at was, you know, I was like, man, this is one of the best jobs I've ever had, you know. And then after the second 6 months, it was like, man, I don't know if I can do this at this place. You know, sometimes, you know, I think if you talk to some other chefs, they may not come out and say it right away, but it's a mind tasking game. It's just as tiring on your mind as it is on your body as a chef. Working them long hours, you know, doing a lot of hands-on work, doing a lot of multiple jobs at once, and just, you know, managing that world. It's on your, you know, your self-esteem. You know, your mental health is very important, you know, and I believe in all that, you know. So it's just like, and I kind of was weighing like, man, am I happy here anymore? You know, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And then, you know, you got to worry about your financial side too. You know, I live alone. I pay all my own bills, and, you know, I live in Toledo. So it's like, you know, I just got a new truck and all these things. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm even making enough to weigh the options of happiness, you know, because sometimes people can say, especially as a chef, if you're super happy every day and you're not stressed and you can figure out the financial side and maybe it's not paying you the best, then take that, you know. But if they're both kind of lacking, something might be up. You know what I mean?
Especially if you're doubting your career that you've put so much into it, and now like your atmosphere or the surroundings are like making you think about what you've worked for your whole life.
100%.
You gotta like try to like somehow, some way change things up. It doesn't matter what.
There might need to be some change in it, like you just said, and you can relate this to any art form, any labor form. And I know you and my grandpa are huge on like, you know, working out and like the fitness journey. You can relate it to that too. Like, you know, am I doing enough? Am I happy doing this
all the time?
You know, am I doing it the right way?
Or you might do the same thing and it's like your plateau, nothing's happening anymore.
The plateau, you know, and I've always believed in that as a chef. I never wanted a plateau. I've always wanted to elevate. I had a lot of goals, you know. Like I mentioned earlier, I became an executive chef by the age of 20.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
And in Toledo, I was a executive chef at 20 years old. I became a sous chef almost right out of culinary school. So, you know, it was a lot of different. A sous chef is an assistant chef under the head chef. So, you know, a lot of different goals. And I still have a goal, you know, I turned 28 on May 5th. I by the age of 30, I would love to start at least getting the works in for my LLC, for my own business. And if that's a food truck or a mobile catering or a pop-up restaurant or even a brick and mortar, if the time and place is right, you know, that's still in my goal, my wheelhouse of I need to reach that.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome, man.
So yeah, but that place kind of had me double guessing almost like my career, and it started getting down, and there was a lot of things that weren't meshing well with me and my life with that place. So I was like, I might need to look around quicker than I thought I would. You know, like for a minute I saw myself there for years, and then once that 1 year hit, it was like, man, I don't know if I can be here another couple of years. So I just all I did was open my resume and turned it back on my LinkedIn and my Indeed, and the regional area director of YOGI'S immediately called me, and I was like, hello, and she introduced herself, and I really liked talking to her, and we went from there. And then I ended up meeting with the GM partner of my restaurant, and a lot of their goals and a lot of their ways of doing work and like how they look at the job really meshed well with what I wanted in life right now at this age and this point of my career. So I said, let me give it a try. So I came in for a second interview, but it was a working interview.
Okay.
Those in the kitchen world, restaurant industry, are called stages. It's come from the French meaning of stage, like you're on a stage.
Okay, makes
so
sense.
It's like a working interview, and you kind of just come in and show them what you got. You kind of see what they're doing if you're interested. So I did a full shift, you know, and everyone was super cool, super nice. The food was great, you know, YOGI'S. I didn't really have much knowledge on that place until I started there. You know, like I mentioned before, it is a corporate world just out of Chicago, but it's like a mom and pop restaurant. The owner stops in, the area director manager stops in all the time. The corporate chef, I can call him up any day I want, text him, email him, he'll answer me right away. So it's really tight-knit community. It's a chef-driven kitchen. We do chef features every month.
Okay.
And then also everything's homemade. Like we make our own focaccia bread every morning. We come in, we make our bread doughs, we make our pizza dough. We have an Italian-style open fire burning oven.
Okay.
You know,
cool.
we do a bunch of pizzas in there, pastas. All of our sauces are homemade. Most of our desserts are homemade, like cheesecakes, you know, creme brulees and classic stuff, you know. But so I like the food, I like the atmosphere, and I said, you know, and then it didn't hurt that, you know, they're like, hey, we think you're worth this, and they gave me a good number, and the number was better than what I was working with at the last job. So I was like, my happiness is there, the work-balance life, they're at least preaching it to me.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, and then the people are nice, and it just seems less stressful, and the money's there. So I said, sometimes, you know, people are against making them changes, but for yourself, you got to make you know, some changes for yourself sometimes.
You
know,
absolutely, because
out of your comfort zone too, because I've never been a chef of anything that's related to corporate. I've always been locally owned, like, you know, one business, one manager, one owner.
Okay.
And that's how I've used to.
So this is something that you like basically walked into something that it's like an unknown for you.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's good though. I mean, like the corporate world of it, you know what I mean? That's what I meant.
And there's a lot to learn with that I can take away from my goals at the end of the day. You know, I've done all the other side, and I can learn from constant learning, you know. I always say you never stop learning till you're off this earth, man. You know, like there's so much to learn with anything, any field, any art, you know what I mean, of new things every day, especially with, you know, nowadays social media and, you know, just in the outlets to see on the internet of how things are different all over the world. You know?
That's why I like doing this podcast, because today I get to talk to a chef.
Right.
Tomorrow I talk to like a rapper. And I talk to like a lady about some event. Or something. But I learn from every single one of you guys. Like I didn't know all this. Like this stuff is really interesting to me, any of this. So you told me a little bit about how you know, how I talked to your grandpa about you and all that, about, okay, so you had like, you said being a chef is taxing on your body and stuff like that. So, but I know that you had got sick during COVID.
That was a huge thing.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can go into detail about that.
Yeah, I never, and one-on-one person, I've never talked to nobody about they got really sick on COVID or nothing about that.
Yeah, man. My case was, really, really a special case. It wasn't very common. It wasn't like,
you were working at a restaurant?
Yes.
What restaurant were you working at the time?
At the time, I was just between Bar 145 again. I was executive chef there. I rewrote the menu, but then I went and kind of what I just did, I tried to hop into a new opportunity, something different. It was in Michigan. It was Quimby's. It was it's like a high-end bar restaurant, all homemade, and they needed a whole new chef because this was in 2021, so this is the second wave of COVID. It wasn't that first wave.
It wasn't the first wave.
Where everything shut down.
All right.
I was cool then.
Were you one of the ones that you really didn't care that much at first, or were you always like aware
I wasn't scared. I was aware of it just because my mom's been in the medical field her whole life.
Okay, so they were like preaching
and a lot of my aunts and stuff are nurses, and they were just telling me things they've been seeing, like the hospital filling up, people on life support, people, especially bigger dudes. I'm a little bit of always been a bigger guy, like it runs in my family, and people even that were active and healthy were getting very sick. So I was like, it's a real thing, but I don't know much about it. I'm not knowledgeable. So, and I was so focused on my career. I left Bar 145, which was a place that I loved and I grew up in working. I was there for 4 different times in my career, all at different stages, to, my original first job, to coming back after culinary school as a sous chef, then coming back a third time, third time as executive chef, rewriting the menu. And then someone, I'm not gonna lie, someone kind of got in my ear and offered me a little bit more money and try to sweeten the deal and say, hey, the grass is greener over here. And I kind of jumped on that, and that was that place, Quimby's in Michigan. And I went over there and was executive chef, and it was rough, man. We had a low staff. Things weren't, I was working a lot of hours. My mental health wasn't the best. My probably physical health wasn't the best. I was gaining a lot of weight because I wasn't going to the gym. I was eating a lot of just crappy food late at night because of my hours I was working. Wasn't getting much sleep. I had sleep apnea. So then I ended up getting really sick one day in April of 2021. And it was my day off. And I remember me and my best friend, I consider him my brother, we were going to take a trip down to Columbus, hang out, see some friends down there, eat some food, just, kind of kick it down there. And we went down there even against my better judgment because I knew I was sick, but I was like, I didn't even think of COVID. I just thought it was the weather change. I was probably maybe getting the flu or like a head cold.
You didn't know you were getting sick.
Yeah, I was getting sick, and then I was. We drove down to Columbus just because we both had 2 days off, me and my friend, and we met some people. We got some food, and I was like, and we had a hotel for the night. I was like, man, let's go back like early. I need to get some sleep. So my body just started feeling like it was shutting down, and it was like a weird feeling, and I was just kind of like talking myself out of it. And then like the next morning it was gotten worse, and it was like me walking from here across the room was like walking in a desert. You know what I mean?
So it hit you hard, fast, like that.
And I told him, I said, we got to go home, man. Because we were supposed to spend the whole other day there. And I was like, we got to go home. I got to go to the doctor or something. Something's wrong. So we drove back up. Went to the hospital. Originally, St. Anne's, I think, over here in Toledo. They just tested me immediately, COVID. I was like, what can we do? And they're like, well, at that time, it was the second wave. They're like, just go home, stay away from everyone, relax. It's actually the worst thing they could have told me, because when you're relaxing and you're laying down flat, like on a couch or a bed, all that's getting in your lungs and creating pneumonia. And I didn't know it at the time, and there's a lot now that me and my mom wish we knew then to maybe not go through what we did. But so then I went back the next day. I was like, something is just not right. So I'm back to there next day. They just sent me home again. Maybe gave me some steroids, some couple cold medicines, nothing major. And then maybe like a day or two after that, after 2 times going to that hospital, I texted my mom. I woke up in the middle of the night, texted, because me and my mom are best friends. You know, she had me very young. She's a single mother. I was the only child growing up. We were just always together. So I texted her. I said, Mom, I feel like I can't breathe. And I thought I was having a heart attack. And I know, like I said, I was bigger then. I'm a big dude now, but I was bigger then. And I was like, man, I just knew, like I mentioned earlier, I was not living a great, healthy lifestyle. I've never drank. I will say this before we get deeper into it. I've never drank alcohol in my life. I've never smoked anything in my life. I've never anything. You know, I've never done any drugs. I've never never smoked cigarettes. I've never drank.
Damn.
I wasn't a partier really. I told you, you know, I worked a lot. You know?
That's crazy, bro.
And especially even
most people that work in kitchens, they're like
either drinking or they're smoking cigarettes. So that it just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't for me. You know, it was something that I knew wouldn't be good if I did do any of it. So I just kind of X'd it all out.
That's cool, man.
And that's how I live my life, and I just live that. You know, and I go out to bars and hang out with friends, and I like to kick it, and I'm usually the DD, you know, driver, but it's just not my thing. You know what I mean? So it's not like I was doing anything, but my like I said, my mental health wasn't good. My physical health probably wasn't the best at that time because of my job, and I was eating like crap, wasn't working out, staying active. Hours of sleep were messed up. So I was like, man, I couldn't breathe. Fast forward, you know, that night I woke up, couldn't breathe, texted my mom. She's like, you got to go to the hospital. I think my grandma picked me up because I couldn't drive myself. There was no way. It was like 4 a.m. And I just knew I was dizzy. I was blurry seeing, and I felt like I was dying, you know? And so she got me in the car. She took me to Toledo Hospital this time. Walked in the ER, man. Walked in. All I could say was, hey, I have COVID. And I collapsed on the ground.
Damn.
Woke up. They're pushing me through the hallways, trying to get me a room on a gurney, like a bed, stretcher, or whatever you want to call it.
Like a stretcher.
Yeah, like, you know, a mobile bed or whatever it is. And
the ones that wheels.
Yeah, and I'm prone. I'm on my stomach, and they have a mask on me, like you see literally in those shows and movies. Like, let them breathe. He's got the mask, and I'm like trying to roll over and figure out what's going on. And they're like, you got to stay on your stomach, sir, because when you're bigger, especially when you're bigger, people don't know this, but most of your lung capacity and like is in your back. Like you can get through to your back because you got these ribs over your lungs. If you're laying flat on your stomach instead of laying on your back, because when you're laying on your back, your lungs kind of smash down with them ribs. When you're laying on your stomach, it's kind of letting them expand more. So they wanted me to do that. So then they finally get me a room. A lot of this earlier time is really blurry to me, but Toledo Hospital got me a room in the ICU, and they were coming in hazmat suits, man. Like, I mean, you would think I was like ET or something, you know? Like, I was like, whoa, I must be really sick, you know? And they're like, it's COVID. And they weren't really telling me much. They were just saying your oxygen's low. Like normal person's oxygen needs to be above 90, your O2 level. My O2 hit in the 70s at that point. It's horrible, you know? So they had me on high flow oxygen. They had me on, IVs and, all that kind of stuff. And then my mom got sick too. She had COVID. She had caught it from me. She was in the hospital, the same hospital, a floor below me. But she got she got better weight. Like, she was really bad. And then I started really getting worse. And then she got better, like where she was able to check herself out of the hospital. By that time though, I noticed they started this is probably a week in there. I was in there for a week. They took all my liquids and food away. And I was really hungry, man. I was really thirsty. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here, What they're doing is they're prepping for my stomach and my body to be intubated. They wanted to put me in a medically induced coma. Oh, shit. So they come in, they're like, we can't do nothing besides induce you into a coma, intubate you, and we have to try to find somewhere for you to go that's better than here. Damn. And I was like scared because I was like, I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not into medical like that.
Yeah, but you know why though too? because listen, your body can't digest and heal, bro. So they stop you from digesting. That's like, because when your body's digesting is working, it don't got time to heal. So they put you in a coma so your body can just relax.
Yeah, exactly.
Start healing from the inside out.
Yeah, and I didn't know that at the time, but you know, it was scary. And they're like telling me all this, and I'm like, man, hold on. I gotta call my mom, you know,
man,
because anything that goes down, man, in my life, I've always been like,
because you and your mom are real tight.
I'm like, let me call my mom, see what her opinion is. And she did start freaking out because she knew though what was going on, because she knew with her medical terms. And she's like, and then my aunt was actually a nurse, and she was at Toledo Hospital that day working. And she's like telling my mom, you gotta calm down, you gotta let the doctors do what they gotta do. So I said, okay, I agreed to it. And then they put me down, and then nothing, dude. I can't remember nothing right there, but I have seen videos. I've seen, you know, pictures of me where I was in the bed and I'm in a coma. So
how long were you in a coma for?
So I was in a coma for about 2 months.
God.
So they intubated me. I had a vent, trach in my neck right here. And then they had me on ECMO. So that's 2 different forms of life support. ECMO was big in COVID because what it is, it's a machine with 2 like rubber tubes that go in your neck and out your neck. And it takes your blood out, oxygenates it for you in a machine, and then pumps it back into you, because your breathing is so bad. Even on a ventilator, you're breathing so bad because of the walk. I had pneumonia of the lungs and I had COVID. So they had to oxygenate my blood. Usually when you're on ECMO for a week, no other hospitals want you, because you're just going to take up space, and there's only limited machines in each hospital around the U.S. for ECMO. It's not like they have it. They're very expensive machines. They're huge. They're last resort.
It's putting oxygen in your blood and then putting the blood back inside.
Yeah, it's oxygenating your blood for you.
Wow.
You know, so your blood's flowing.
Never heard of that before.
To your heart, and then, you know, to your brain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Without that, you probably would have died.
Yeah, easily. So they had that, the Toledo Hospital. They put me on it. I was on it for about a week exactly. And my pulmonologist at Toledo Hospital, Dr. Body, he pretty much was the main one who saved my life. He's the one who fought for me in the beginning to get to a different hospital that had more capabilities. Because he was like, he can't be here right now. Like Toledo, he's got to go. So I think he hit up Chicago, Michigan, and Columbus, and they all turned me down because they're like, we're full, and he's been on ECMO for a week already. We're not taking him. You know what I mean? We just don't have the manpower. He hit up Cleveland. They took me. So they life flighted me in a helicopter to Cleveland
Clinic.
Cleveland University Hospital originally. Okay. Now all my medical stuff is transferred to Cleveland Clinic. Okay. But University Hospital, it's right next to each other. Okay. Cleveland University.
Where all
Hospital.
the guys study that go to Cleveland Clinic.
And they also all the Browns dudes go when they get hurt and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
They go to University Cleveland Hospital. That's where they go. They don't go to
Cleveland Browns.
Yep. So they go there when they get hurt or sick.
So you probably didn't even want to go there.
Yeah. Right. No. Exactly. But so I wake up 2 months later, and I didn't know where I was. I wear contacts.
Crazy, bro. 2 months later.
So I wear contacts.
With all those machines in your neck and all that.
So I got like a bunch of tubes in me. I wake up. I don't have my contacts in. I don't have glasses on. I'm really blind without that, man. So I can't see. I had a trach in my throat and a ventilator tube breathing for me in my throat. So you can't talk. When you have one of those in, you can't talk. You can't drink. You can't eat. I had a feeding tube in my stomach, and then they ended up putting a total of 9 chest tubes in my ribs to drain out all the infections I had and all the pneumonia that was in me. So I had like 12 tubes in me at one point. And you're asleep for 2 months. Yeah. You're not moving. You're in a bed. Muscle atrophy is, you lose your muscle. So I lost all muscle, man. So I wake up. I'm trying to move. Trying to talk, can't talk. My mom's like, don't talk, you can't talk. And I'm trying to figure it all out. So I'm trying to remember, obviously to put me under and all these things, you were medically medicated. You were heavy medicated. You know what I mean? And me, I just told you, I've never done a drug in my life, man. So I don't know what that feeling's like. Wow. So I wake up, I'm feeling loopy, and I'm kind of like seeing things maybe that aren't there, and trying to get a feel of where am I, you know, am I, you know, and they're like, you're in Cleveland. I'm like, how did I get to Cleveland, you know? And then they're like, you're very sick, and then you have all these tubes in you, you can't move, because I'm trying to move, and like I can't even move my hand. I couldn't even point, you know? And you lose all that muscle. So I can't move, can't talk, can't eat, can't drink. Damn. All I can do is blink and see. And then I finally I'm mouthing words, like, and it's like, you know, someone puts glasses on me, finally I can see, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, let me figure this out here. And then I go, what's wrong? You know, I kind of mouth to my mom, what's wrong? And she was like, you're very sick, you got COVID, we're trying to, you know, fight. And what I didn't know was when I was in the coma, I had less than 5% chance, 1, to come out, 2, to live. I did have cardiac arrest. My heart stopped for about 2 minutes. Damn. When I was in my coma. My nurse ran in, she jumped on me, hit me with chest compressions, broke a couple of my ribs, but got me to start breathing again, you know, my heart. So
so the whole time your mom and your grandpa, everybody thinks that you're gonna like maybe pass away, or they don't.
Yeah, I mean, they're
just hoping one day you wake up. Or something.
One day they didn't have any answers, man. I was less than 5% chance to survive or wake up or live, and then they, you know, the doctors just I had palliative care there. You know, the coma was horrible. You know, it was the scariest thing ever. It was like a nightmare for forever that you couldn't wake up from. But you could also hear voices at the same time. So it was like going in and out of sleep paralysis almost. And you were seeing things that weren't there. And then, you know, the doctors were heavy into like, hey, there's a lot of cases like his that around the US and world right now, they're not making it, you know, like, and he's probably not going to. So I had people coming in, family, friends, driving up there saying their goodbyes, you know, like, and I can kind of hear it, and then I wake up and they're still saying their goodbyes, and all I can do is sit there. You know, I was in a coma past my birthday. I didn't even get to celebrate my birthday that year. So
so while you're in the coma, you can kind of like
it all depends, man. You're in and out, but like
you're in a decent
like I knew I was in a hospital bed. I knew but it all kind of reverts into nightmares. At least for me, it did. And maybe it was the medical drugs I was on too, mixed with you know. But it was scary, man. And I'll tell you what, and I won't get too deep into it this part because I don't like to press my opinion on anyone or like what I personally went through to try to be like, that's how people should live. But before I was sick, man, I wasn't a man of God, and I wasn't really like, I grew up Catholic, my whole family did, we're Polish, we're Catholic, you know, we grew up in Polish village and going to church a lot, but I got baptized, you know, communion, all that stuff. So, but once I hit college, man, and I was just focusing on my job, I was really just kind of selfish way of living. Like I was just money, focusing on me, maybe girls, you know, just trying to go and be in the kitchen and just try to succeed. And I say selfish because I wasn't looking at the bigger picture, man. And I went into that coma, like literally, you know, like I didn't think or pray. You know, I didn't pray. I didn't have God. I didn't have faith. But the things I saw in that coma, man, were some scary things, things I never want to maybe see again. And some things that really brought light, like literal light to my eyes and woke me up, literally helped me wake up from the coma and inside of like, hey, you know, I saw what I saw and I heard what I heard, man, when I was that sick, and I knew I was dying, you know, I knew I was dying, and whatever you want to say, you know, because I believe, you know, I don't care who believes in what, man, you know, as long as someone, like I have something I believe in and that's all I know, and I don't care, you know, I'm a guy that's friends with everyone, man, but my faith in what I saw is what I saw, and I refound God, I refound faith, and so did my mom, because all we had, man, was prayers, like praying, and people were like, you're gonna die, you know, your son's gonna die. And that's my mom's only, so she's like losing it. You know, there was a church across the street from the hospital, so she would run there on the steps and pray. She'd pray with me every single day, every morning and every night, even in the coma, you know, hold my hand and pray. And, you know, my grandparents, my grandpa, the one you had on the show, he you know, he goes to church almost, maybe not right now because he had some surgeries.
He had knee surgery.
You know, but I mean, for years and years and years, since he's been retired, he's gone to church every morning, either right after the gym or before, or whatever the case is when he goes to the gym and breakfast. He has a routine, but he would go to church every morning. He used to be an usher at church. So that's very important to him. So, you know, and he's one of the main dudes I look up to, and I just refound. And I woke up in tears, and people are like, why are you crying? And I couldn't talk, you know what I mean? But the things I saw, man, is like, you know, I'm just glad to be alive, and I'm blessed. And I knew it was a blessing. It wasn't, I had some of the best surgeons. Don't get me wrong, my surgeon and me are on a texting basis still to this day. He did 5 surgeries on me. And but God's definitely the one I'm most thankful for.
Yeah, bro, because you're a miracle, bro.
Yeah,
you're completely a miracle, because if everyone's saying people like you are dying, people in that same position were dying.
Or it went from dying to he'll never walk again. He'll never cook again. He'll never talk again. He'll never get off a ventilator. They were like, he will be in a hospital bed in his house, like almost like hospice, you know, like they're like, he'll have to live like that his whole life. And because I was just that sick, man. People don't realize there was a lot of outside problems, infections. I had bed sores, I had wounds, and, you know, then, so eventually what they did was, you know, it's called a pneumonectomy. I have my right lung. They took most of my right lung out. So I really only have one lung now. So, and like I said, I had no prior health issues. I never smoked, but my lung was just so dead because of that. The COVID attacked it with the pneumonia. They took that right lung out right here. I have a big scar, and took that out. Then they were having me on a lung transplant list, but there's nothing you can explain besides just being blessed, man, because then they're like, well, you know, transplants, people don't realize, are really dangerous. They can reject, they can cause more infections because it's not your natural body organ. So it could really put you back in the hospital. My mom was reading all these things. She's like, man, a transplant, and that might not be good. And, you know, you got to really stay away from everyone when you have a transplant, because the one little cough, it can cause really a world of damage. Well, then they're like, I forget what happened, but something happened medically after that surgery. They're like, we can't afford to give him I was so sick is what it was. You have to be somewhat healthier to get that surgery done, like I just said.
Like a transplant?
Yeah, so I wasn't even...
Everything has to recover, right?
So I was already so deathly sick, man. They're like, we can't even talk about a transplant. But they knew they had to get that bad lung out. And then they filled muscle into that space. So they did that. There was like a bunch of other surgeries. If my mom was here, she knows the medical terms, but you know, I'm giving you the layman terms. So medical, so the surgeries, I was still on a trach. So I was on a trach. I was on a breathing machine for about 180 days, man. I was on ECMO for 80 days. I told you already, usually after a week on ECMO, you call it quits, you know what I mean? But my mom kept fighting for me. My mom quit her job. She moved out to Cleveland.
Damn.
She was living in hotels to hotel, you know, and walking across the street every day. She was in the room with me because she didn't want anything bad.
Like one of those Ronald McDonald's houses?
Well, no, those didn't even work because I was so old.
You're an
adult. You gotta be a kid.
Those were kids.
No, we thought of it though, you know what I mean? Like maybe that could happen, but we had to use like fundraisers. A lot of Toledo really did a great, like I didn't realize how heavy Toledo followed my story, and me as a person, as a chef too, like, hey, this local chef's sick, we got to try to like pull together, you know? And my mom was keeping everyone updated on Facebook when this was happening, day to day, you know, because there was just so many people that were following the story. So we had like two GoFundMe's got made. We, you know, Borrowing for Five, my old job, did a huge fundraiser where they shut down the whole restaurant and sold tickets for it, and it was, I mean, packed.
Damn, this was before I ever knew you or anything. If not, I would have helped promote it too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people...
I feel bad that I didn't know you at the time.
You know, certain time and place, man, there might be a reason why we met now, you know?
I think so.
And I believe that, you know, like I said, I believe things, after what I went through, man, things happen for a reason. I have a way more positive outlook on life, and I have my faith. You know, I have my spirituality, my faith, and hey, man, my God is leading me a certain way, and I'm gonna keep going that way. So, so you know, my mom was living off of, thank God that people were helping from Toledo.
Thank God for your mom, bro.
Well, that too, because
your mom is so awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't be alive also if there's a lot of factors that played a part. But if it wasn't for her being there every single day, because that's what a lot of these people that were dying didn't have. Even nowadays with cancer, like, or like maybe if they have liver damage or kidney damage, failure, they don't have an advocate for them that's like fighting to talk for them
every day, talking to the doctors and nurses.
My mom,
this, that.
Yep, you got it, man. My mom was in the meetings with the doctors every day. She was sitting there like, and if she didn't know something, she would research it, and she would get, by the next day she knew all about it.
Because she already was in the medical field.
Yeah, so she was like, I'm gonna figure it out. So I'm gonna, and she was the one that was making sure I was clean every day. I was bathed, because I was on all them tubes. She would have to sponge bath me. She would have to make sure I was getting rolled over to move, so I wasn't just sitting in one place. Yeah,
you get sores and stuff.
Yeah, dude. Yep. And then you lose, your muscles just fall off your body because of gravity. Like you're just losing it all, what you gained all those years. So. Yeah, my mom's a huge, big part, man. And then the surgeon I had he definitely fought for me. He was trying to do anything he could in his power to keep me alive, and it was hard. And then I started coming to more, and and then I eventually, after like 5 months, it felt like it was never ending. They took me back to Toledo for a little bit, and I got even more sick. They drove me in an ambulance to Toledo, and then they life flighted me again back to Cleveland because they're like, oh, we thought he was getting better, he's not. We have to put another tube in him. So finally, long story, push it to 5 months later, I finally start weaning off of my oxygen, my trach, my ventilator. I was off ECMO, so I beat that battle. I got off ECMO completely. They took it out.
So so that means that oxygen started coming into your blood
back naturally into the blood, into my heart, into my brain.
So that was the first sign of like
that's some good relief, yeah. But then I had to get off the trach, the ventilator. That was actually the breathing tube. So they would put me on CPAP and like do all these other things to try to wean me off, and that was scary in itself, man. Because for months I was relying on a machine to breathe for me. So if you're coming in and telling me in my head, hey man, we're gonna take it off, you're like, dude, I don't want you to do that. What if I croak? Like, what if my body just stops? Like, and so your anxiety, it's called air hunger is what it is. So I would have these kind of like, even though my oxygen was reading on the screen behind me 100% because of that machine, I was like, man, they're pulling it. Like I would kind of start get delirious because I'm in a room for months, and I was like, they're pulling it. I'm gonna die, and I can't breathe, and you start having a panic attack. So that was really hard to get through.
Oh, and that was actually happening, dude.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Once the machine takes over, it could easily stop your function.
Yes.
Because the only reason why we know how to breathe is because unconsciously our breathing. We're breathing like once we're a baby, we take that first breath. We don't have to tell our mind to breathe. We just breathe automatic.
So they're trying to have me retrain.
Yeah, because now you're on a machine, and now
they're gonna pull it off a little by little, and it's like scary.
Fear that you should actually have.
Yeah, that was scary, dude. And people don't realize my anxiety was horrible because of it, man. And so that was a battle right there in itself. Yeah. So we got that done.
What happened? They took you off the machine?
They finally started slowly turning it down. And they would have, I'm not going to lie, they would have to lie to me, I think. They would work with, but my mom was power of attorney.
Yeah.
So they would just tell her, hey, we're going to do this. And she'd probably say, I think she was like, don't tell him because you'll have anxiety.
Yeah.
But they would, the pulmonary care nurses would come in and they would turn it down and talk to me. And I kind of was like paranoid, but I had to go through it. I had to do what I had to do to fight, man. And I mentioned earlier, my grandpa's one of my biggest heroes. I actually have a tattoo of him on my arm of his. He was a war veteran. You talked to him, and I have his war pictures in the Air Force on my arm tattooed. But I would always think, man, he was there too, because he was there a lot. Besides my mom every day, the most person that was there was my grandpa. He was there as much as he could be. He drove home. He would go back to Toledo, but he would be there at least 3 to 4 days a week sometimes, and he would be, they let him, because at that time you only had one person in your room with you. they special granted my grandpa to be there with me. So I had 2.
Yeah.
And, you know, he would pray and pray. And I'm going to be real with you, man. He's a tough dude. And I know you know that.
Yeah, he's really dedicated.
He's a tough dude.
He's at the gym every day at 5 in the morning.
He's a tough old school dude, man. And, you know, he's one of the more veterans. He's a Polish guy who grew up blue-collared union guy.
Yeah.
But, and you can't tell him no. You know, he'll do what he's going to do. But I've never seen him cry in my entire life. The only times I've ever seen him cry was when I was in the hospital and when I was doing physical therapy, learning how to walk again. And that was the only 2 times I ever seen him shed a tear. So that shows something, you know what I mean, that I got to him. But I was thinking in my head, you know, because he would be like, you got to fight, Marcus, you got to fight.
He talks to me about you all the time.
And I'd be like, you know, if he was in the spot, I know he would fight, you know, and he's a fighter and I want to be a fighter just like him. So I had to get brave, man. You had to get brave. You had to, like, you know, I always say, you know, there's a band I listen to. They made a song, and it's called "Life's Hard, but Be Harder." And I listen to them when I go lift and stuff. You know? They're like a metal band. But anyway, they. So I was listening. You know, I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, man, I gotta be harder, man. You gotta push. You gotta fight. So I would get through that, and then eventually I got good enough to the point where they're like, we're gonna send you to the university hospital had a physical therapy center where it was like an inpatient. And I had to live there for a month, like in a hospital bed, but they got me up and moving every day. It was in Avon, Ohio, so right down the road, Avon Lake. So my journey wasn't done yet. It was like 6-7 months hit. 6 months, they're like, we gotta send you a month over there. So I went there and I had some drains in me still, like these surgically placed drains to still, instead of tubes.
To make like little pouches.
So no infections would come, right? So I'm doing physical therapy, and this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, man. I mean, even worse than the oxygen thing was just moving again, like getting up on the side of the bed, brushing your teeth, walking. It took me months to relearn how to walk again, man.
You basically had to create muscles that were all like gone already.
Yeah, I mean, and like, you know, just having those motor functions, you know, getting dressed, eating. But the place I was at, University Hospital's, the rehab was amazing. You know what I mean? My physical therapist, an occupational therapist, both of them were great, man. They had to teach me how to take a shower again. You know, they had to teach you how to, you know, use the restroom. They had all those things played a part, man. And it's like, you get down on yourself some days, you know, because you're like, man, you know, I've always been a strong guy, just like my grandpa, and I've always been like, for my mom, the man of the house, and now it's like my mom's taking care of me again, like I'm a baby, and it's like, it makes you feel less of a man. It makes you feel kind of like weak and helpless, and I started getting emotional, and I'll get down on myself. You get frustrated. You know, like, man, am I ever gonna walk again, right? You're trying so hard to take 2 steps, and it felt like forever. You know, you're running a marathon. But, you know, after a month there, I finally got it going enough where they got me in a wheelchair instead of a stretcher, you know what I mean, to transfer me to the hospital. So that was even huge. Then I was just on nasal oxygen, you know, like a tank. Instead of this, they pulled this out. So that's great.
Yeah, because your lung was doing good. Then.
It's getting better. It's getting better.
You were down to 1 lung, but
but it's oxygenating enough for 2.
Yeah, because that thing is not actually pushing air; it's just there, right?
Yeah, it's kind of just there, and you're doing the breathing with it, right? You know, I was on like 4 liters at the time, so you know, there's more air than coming out. But I was doing, you know, you gotta, like you just kind of said, make sure you're doing it.
Yeah,
you know,
the one that's
training you to breathe again. Like you said. So I was on that, and then I had one last surgery because the drains weren't. They were still pulling too much infection out. I was, you know, it was still sick. You know, that's what was causing my numbers, like my levels. I was getting, they'd take my blood and be like, well, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. They had to put this thing called a Claggett window on me. And that was my last surgery. It was October of 2021. So I got sick in April of 2021. Now I'm still sick, October 2021, in the hospital. I haven't gone home. And, you know, I'm at the Avon rehab. So I go back to University Hospital to get a surgery done. What they did was they medically placed right here a hole which is like they compared it to another nose hole. So it's called a dirty wound. It doesn't need to be sterile, but at first it was the size of about a baseball. There was a hole in my chest right where they took my lung out.
Damn.
They took some ribs out, fragments of ribs, and they got in there, and then my mom would have to do it for me when I got home, because she moved in with me for about a couple months to be my caretaker, because I said I lived alone.
Damn, bro.
And I was like relearning how to walk again. I was in a wheelchair still. I was on oxygen. That was my last surgery. Then they sent me home. And she had to pack it with gauze and clean it every day, because I was so scared to even look at it, man. And you know, you just kind of get in your head. But it started shrinking, and now it's about the size of like a nose hole in my chest. And I gained a lot of muscle back, obviously. I work full-time as a chef. You know, I do go to the gym when I can. I do try to live life and stay busy. You know, we just talked. I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers game this past weekend.
Yeah, bro. Hold on. Before you say anything else, like, man, I'm really proud of you, man. I don't know you besides today.
Yeah.
But like, dude, like, you couldn't walk. You went through all that, bro, and like you already started doing everything again. Yeah. You got your job back. That was probably a lot of people probably like, he's never gonna be a chef again.
He's never gonna be a chef, or he'll never do what he did.
And then not only that, but you remember stuff because like maybe you could have lost a lot of your memory during that
I did lose a good amount of memory, and I do have memory issues still, but it's getting better and better, and it's crazy. People don't realize what the body is able to do, man. And like I said, I thank God for even one, being put on this earth, and two, for even living still to this day. But the body can do things, man. Like, I'm still living with pretty much one lung. Talking to you right now, no oxygen. You know what I mean? And I am on a lot of medicine. COVID did attack my liver too, and like I said, I never drank in my life. I have liver disease now because of COVID. God damn. So I see a liver specialist. I take liver medicine, and it was phenomenon after phenomenon. They're like, what is going on? You know, it doesn't make sense. Like, but I kept fighting and I kept pushing through, and I got through it. And you know, I still have this hole today. There is a possibility within the next year, hopefully. We did think we could last month, but we didn't go through with the surgery because there's a lot more cons and pros right now to close it. But you got to close it at the right time. You got to close it from within too, inside out. Because if you prematurely close a surgical hole like that, it could get infected, and it can cause air leaks and arterial bleeding, your inner bleeding, and it just wouldn't be good. So right now, why hurt what's technically not broken? You know. I'm living life to the fullest right now. Like I just said, I went to a Steelers game. I go to sporting events. I travel a lot. I got a new truck. You know, I've been working a lot, working hard, trying to save money again and get back to my goal of being that, restaurant owner. And it did put a little kink in my life for a year. I lost a year, but and maybe things are different than what I expected right now of how I live my life, because I have to take care of this every day and clean it and make sure I take my medicine. But other than that, man, I live life pretty positive. That's awesome. So
hey, so how did you become a Steelers fan? Because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I've always been a big sports guy. Sports is huge in my family. My grandpa growing up is a huge Ohio State fan, and he
likes the Browns, doesn't he?
He likes the Browns. But I'll tell you what, when I was a little kid in the 90s, growing up, and because of the 80s and the 70s, when I was growing up in the 90s, he was still a Bears fan because he liked the Bears. He liked Mike Ditka, Dick Butkus, Walter Payton. He liked all them. They were hard-nosed. Hard-nosed dudes. And we had some family that lived in Chicago, and so he loves Chicago, man. He'll try to kind of pocket that away because the Bears kind of suck right now. But he'll be like, oh, I'm Ohio everything. But he did like the Bears, man. But he liked Jim Brown a lot. I know that was one of his favorite players for the Browns. So he does root for the Browns. But he's not, I wouldn't say he's like a diehard pro fan. He's more a diehard Ohio State. He'll pay attention more to college than pros. But for me, sports were huge. I played football. I played basketball. I even played some soccer growing up. I tried a little bit of everything. I played a little hockey. I just was I love sports. So growing up, my dad, even when I was a baby, my dad was with my mom. They got divorced right when I was born, but my dad was the diest hard Steelers fan ever. So I mean, Pittsburgh was just like in me. You know, I was always wearing black and yellow and had the Steelers logo all over me as a baby and a kid.
Okay.
So then, you know, you grow up, you know, you're a kid, you're figuring out what your teams are. Like my best buddy, his dad and him were all New York, Giants, Knicks, you know, stuff like that, Yankees. So for me, I'm like, well, I'm gonna be Pittsburgh. So, you know, if I'm gonna pick a baseball team, it's gonna be the Pirates. If I'm gonna pick a hockey team, Penguins. And what I like about Pittsburgh is some sports, like cities, have, you know, all their teams, but they're all different colors. We're always black and yellow. All of our teams, soccer, they have a soccer team in Pittsburgh, I think it's like the Hound Dogs or something, and they're black and yellow. You know, so they all are black and yellow, and I thought that was cool. And
I love that.
You know, I just like how, you know, the Pittsburgh's P hat, and I just always liked them. You know, the logo and the colors. So, and then I just got deeper into sports knowledge, and I'm a huge Pittsburgh pro everything, man. So. Steelers, I've just been ride or die, you know.
Did you watch all the Super Bowls when Ben Roethlisberger?
Yep, I watched. Yeah, so I was old enough to remember both of them.
Like the Arizona one.
Arizona and Seahawks. XL and Detroit when Jerome Bettis had his last season, and he was one of my favorite players. Hines Ward, James Harrison.
Those are the beasts.
Palomalu, you know.
I love Palomalu.
Ben, obviously, Big Ben. But. Yeah, man, I watched all them Super Bowls, and that was pretty cool, you know. And I think back to it now that I'm older, I'm like, man, I was kind of lucky to see my guys win 2 Super Bowls when I was a child in my childhood, because my dad in his childhood was the 70s, you know, and he saw all of Chuck Noll's team win them 70s. They went on that run, you know. So. You know, it's pretty cool, and I still believe we'll get there again.
We got a good defense. We keep winning all these games on defense.
We get injuries. We got some injuries. That kind of frustrates me. It kind of sucks, but it comes with the territory of the sport. We play a hard-nosed defense, so we're gonna get, you know, we're gonna put our bodies in danger. The Steelers do, but at the same time, you know. I'm a huge Tomlin fan, man. I am a Tomlin fan.
Oh, you are? Because some people aren't.
I'm a Tomlin fan.
Me too.
I like Tomlin, but, you know, I am on the train of Fire Matt Canada.
Me too. I hate that.
But I honestly, though, man, I know he's young, and I do like Kenny Pickett, man. I think I watched him when he was in college. He was great, man. You know, and I know college and pro is different. But I do think if we got him a little bit better protection on the front end, and we also maybe had some better schemes on offense to draw up for him, where he'd have time in the pocket. He'd be good, man.
Dude, Ben Roethlisberger, he has a podcast, and I listen to it, and he's saying they should go get Byron Leftwich.
He's been saying that, and I've said the same thing. He knows the offense.
He was our backup quarterback, and he knows like exactly what our whole
and he is already I believe a coordinator.
He is.
So it's like, man, that would be awesome. Because he was he did love Pittsburgh, man. He was a Pittsburgh guy.
So they keep saying that to bring him over there. So I think
I would love that one day. You know what I mean, man? I would love that, because I do think that if we just opened up the playbook a little bit more for Kenny to be that leader. You know, I mean, when Ben started, he didn't have the best offensive line. He didn't have the best tools of the trade at first. You know, they kind of came to him. And he had to fight. You know, he was getting tackled a lot too, man.
You gotta understand the way the way that we're running it right now. There's a meme that was going around that says C.J. Stroud has more touchdowns in 9 games than
his whole career with Pickett, right?
Okay, but that's so easy because C.J. Stroud plays for Houston. They're just letting it air out.
They're an air-out offense.
They're not. But we got a good defense. We're doing good as hell in our division. They don't want to give Kenny Pickett these. They don't want to start like accidentally throw some picks, accidentally ruin a game.
Get him hurt.
So they're trying to control the game.
And honestly, lately, more and more each game, our run game's been looking better, man. Like, I was just at the last game. I know people aren't fans of Najee. I do like us switching out the running back system. I like a 2 running back system. You know, I think that goes back. College does it a lot. I know how Ohio State's always kind of believed in that because I'm a Ohio State fan and they've done it. Even like Michigan does it sometimes.
Yeah, like the running back committee. Running back by committee.
Yeah, so like the system I think works. Warren and Najee are two different running backs, but I believe in my team. I'm a little bit positive, man. Yeah. I don't like Canada. I don't like the play calls, but I'm a huge George Pickens fan.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a Kenny Pickett fan. I think they need to open it up a little bit more. They do need to air it out a little bit more.
That's why he gets mad.
Down the field to George Pickens. They do need to air it out because like last game I was just at yesterday.
Yeah.
Like he had like 3 catches, man. It was no touchdown. I was like, man, that's disappointing because he's so good.
Of course, yeah.
But he's a monster. That's a tool I think we're underutilizing.
That's how come they become divas. They always say the wide receivers because in their mind they're like, throw me the ball, I'll score.
Well, here's the thing though. I mean, people who say they become divas are the same people that pay to go to games.
Yeah.
You're paying for these people to play. So like, I mean, at the end of the day, that's their job, man. Like they're getting money to do a job, and if they're feeling like, I mean, if I would feel the same way as a chef, I would be like, you're paying me this amount of money, and then you're just gonna have me sitting on the sideline while other chefs are cooking or running the kitchen. I want to get in there. I want to score too. So
they want to score. They practice all day catching, all day, and then they get in the game. They don't get no ball.
Run the routes, and so I believe in us, man. I think we're looking good. It was an ugly win yesterday.
Yeah.
We've gotten some ugly wins, but even if it's not this year, man, within the next couple of years, if we stay on the right track, Tomlin still stays, a little longer. I think we'll see another Super Bowl with Tomlin.
Yeah, I think so.
And with Kenny. I think Pickett will get a Super Bowl. I think I want to say that. I think Kenny Pickett will be a Super Bowl quarterback. He reminds me, and people may laugh because they hate on us and they hate on Steelers. But to be honest, Eli Manning had 2 Super Bowls, I think?
Yeah.
Big Ben had 2 Super Bowls, and they doubted both of them.
Of course.
And I think he's a little bit of a mix, kind of like, and I've seen it before of Ben and Eli Manning, like the way he runs the backfield, so those are 2 Super Bowl quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I'm comparing them to them, something ain't wrong.
I think that as the season goes on, he gets better because he's still kind of second year or whatever. So this is second year, right?
Yep, second year. And he didn't even start the first 2 games last year.
Yeah, remember last year remember TJ got hurt, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't really do good. And then all of a sudden when TJ came back, he started actually doing good, but it was too late. We didn't make the playoffs by like 1 game.
By 1 game.
So this year, look, we're doing okay. We have
a winning.
But maybe he starts catching on fire.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Games or something.
That's what I'm hoping for. Also, you got to look at his 4th quarter comebacks, man.
Yeah, he got a bunch of them.
The 2-minute drives that he runs, he's pretty clutch, man. He's got ice in his veins, man. He ain't scared. He'll take a hit and he'll keep the ball rolling.
He played 5 years, right, or 4 years in college.
For Pitt.
So they said that he was like one of the most experienced.
And the thing is, he played at the same field he plays now.
I know, that's dope shit.
Pitt shares the field with
he's
Pittsburgh.
Been in the same field
for years.
7 years.
And the practice field's the same practice center.
Yeah.
So, awesome. He's a Pittsburgh dude, man. I believe in him.
Yeah. Hey, man, so, like, if you ever do anything like a food truck or anything that, because, like, I want to do podcasts like this. I don't want it to be like question and I want people to free flow, speak their story. So like this one is kind of like I did this a couple times, but I haven't did like a free flowing conversations like this much. But like, man, I really appreciate you. And then if you ever get a business or anything, I can help you promote it.
That'd be awesome, man. Work with each other,
or anything.
I'm all for that, man. And I know you're a huge guy in support local. I'm a huge guy in support local. So. I'm a huge pro Toledo dude, man.
Thanks, man. That's awesome. Me too. And I want to tell you, man, like, bro, it's awesome. Like, even though you went through all that shit, like, you got a crazy, like, great story. So even if you like speak your truth, man, let people know. Like, a lot of people think COVID was just fake. And COVID like didn't really like. A lot of people think that shit's bullshit.
Right.
But like you have like a real story.
Yeah, I mean, I have facts. You know what I mean? I went through it. I seen it. felt it. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on Big Yogi'Z Garage and having this interview with me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to bring up or anything you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good, man. I think we covered it all. So.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You guys can go to his restaurant. What's the restaurant you work at?
My restaurant's Big Yogi'Z in Perrysburg on Levis Commons, and I do have an Instagram. I'll be posting all my food all the time on it.
Okay, what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Chef X Mark, so Chef X, and then MARC, and then you can see all my food I post, and I tag my work all the time. And Yep.
All right, so I have my editor Brandon and put it in the description and all.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, cool. All right, thank you guys so much for watching Big Yogi'Z Garage. We appreciate you so much. We'll see you next week on Big Yogi'Z Garage. Let's go!